Don't look back or you'll lose a lot. Look at in Genesis 19 verse 26. Look what happened. It says, but his wife, whose wife? Lot's wife, from behind him looked back, and she became a pillar of salt. Don't look back or you'll lose a lot. You know what I've learned about this is just because somebody is behind you, it doesn't mean they have your back. Because there's two groups of people who are behind you. There's people who are behind you to literally, from the purity of their heart, to follow you. And then there's other people who are behind you to do things behind your back. And that's where Lot's wife fell in the category of. She was behind him, but she was doing something else behind his back. Don't look back, or you'll lose a lot. I don't know what that lot is in your life, but in her life, it was her husband. And attached to her husband came a lot. See, his name wasn't just, his name wasn't just Lot. He also had a lot. He had plenty of lots of land. He had lots of possession, lots of notoriety. He had lots of money. He had lots of asset. He had lots of ranked. He was ranked high when it came to this place called Sodom. I mean, when there were town meetings, when city officials needed to make major decisions for what was going to happen in Sodom, all the meetings were held at Lot's house. So Lot, his name wasn't just Lot, but he also had a lot. So don't look back, because if you look back, you'll lose a lot. Don't look back, or you'll get stuck where you're trying to get out of. I don't know who your lot is, or what is the lot in your life, but if you enter into the year 2020, the danger is you can lose a lot if you look back to 2019, to that one thing that kept you from advancement with your relationship with God. And that's what this paper is for. Because right now, what we're going to do in the next few minutes is we're going to all write down on this piece of paper that one thing. And I text somebody today, or this week, he said, what are you going to do for Sunday? I said, well, we're going to write down that one thing that kept us back from 2019. He said, that one thing or a lot of things? Well, we all know there's a lot of things. But I'm just asking you to write down one thing. Just write down that one thing that held you back in 2019 that is going to keep you going forward. And when you write it down, don't do that now, because we'll get to the time of the service when we do. And when we write it down, what we're going to do is you are going to crumble this piece of paper. And I'm going to give you the opportunity to walk up to this altar. And when you get into this part of the altar, you are going to throw that one thing in that garbage can, and we are going to say goodbye, pass, no more. You're not following me to what direction I'm trying to get into. Lack of prayer, you're staying in that trash can. Lying, you're staying in that trash can. Fornication, you're staying in that trash can. Too much alcohol, you're staying in that trash can. Pride, you're staying in that trash can. Can I get an amen, somebody? I don't know what your thing is going to be on that piece of paper, but we're going to say goodbye, pass. I'm not looking back, because if I look back, I'm going to lose a lot, and I don't want to lose a lot, because I'm grateful for just what God has given me this far. And how dare I lose what God has given to me? Because don't you be fooled. The Lord does give, and he does take away. We all hear of Sodom and Gomorrah. That was a modern day Las Vegas and San Francisco put together. The highest committed sin in Sodom was homosexuality. Very high. As a matter of fact, that's what got God's attention. It was so high that it reached the ears of God, and it was so high ranked that God wanted to come down for himself to see if it was true what the angels were bringing to his ears. And it was bad. If you know the story, you got to remember is that when the angels appeared to Lot's house, they came to Lot's house, the angels, Excuse me. And they told Lot, hey, listen, this is what's going to happen. God is mad, and I'm paraphrasing, okay? God is mad. The city's going to get destroyed. Do you have any more family here? I mean, to me, that sounds like 911 there. You have any more family? If you do, you need to get them all out of here because what happened is, you know your Uncle Abraham, right? You know, because Lot's uncle was Abraham, and Abraham was a founding father. I mean, really, Abraham, you know, through the whole seed, we get Jesus, and Abraham is why the people are so prosperous, and in the Jewish people, they're so prosperous, and because of Abraham, they're, you know, running down the beard of Aaron, pretty much. But Abraham was Lot's uncle, and the angels tell Lot, they said, hey, man, you're your uncle, man. Man, he begged God 5 times not to destroy the city. He begged God, and we're talking about the night before. The angel said, Abraham talked to God last night, and we're sorry, man, but we're here on a mission. Abraham begged God and said, hey, if we can find 50 people there, will you save the city? And God said no. And then Abraham said, how about 45 people, righteous people? And God said no. And then Abraham said, okay, God, how about if we find 30 righteous people? And God said no. And then he says, 20 righteous people. God said no. And then Abraham went all the way down, the lowest bid. How about if we just find 10 righteous people? Will you save the city? And perhaps many people think is that's how many family members that Lot had in his family with his son-in-laws and daughter-in-laws and his daughters, that there was close to 10 people, including him and his wife. And so Abraham, all what he was trying to do was at least save his family because he knew that's where they lived. And he knew that's where everything they owned was. And for them to leave that city and for that city to be destroyed, then that means that everything they had worked for so hard for their entire life will be destroyed, and possibly they may be destroyed because of the crisis and because of the trauma. And God said, there's not even 10 righteous people there. Had it been Lot's wife that failed in them reaching the number 10. I know one thing is Lot's wife was in love with worldly possessions. And that was what she would have wrote on that green piece of paper and threw in the garbage can if she came to this church here today. She was in love with worldly possessions. And the angels say, hey, we got to split at the break of dawn. You got to be out of this town because this town is going to be destroyed with fire and brimstone. Now, I think it was 1941 or 1943, way back then, it snowed for the first time in Oxnard. And I don't mean to say way back then, some of you were 20, so please don't get offended. But it was, I want to say the 1940s, am I wrong? Anybody here want to, take pride in your age? 1949, it snowed here in Oxnard. Everybody was excited. Everybody was pumped up. And snow was coming down here. But you have to understand, Sodom, it didn't snow ice. It snowed fire. And brimstone came down in, the sizes of golf balls and baseballs. That was 7,000 degree Fahrenheit in heat that fell from heaven. And when God's supernatural fire falls from heaven, it will turn limestone into ashes. It will turn granite into ashes. When God's fire touches anybody, I don't care how hard you are, how hardcore you are, how hooked on methadone you are, and how strung out on heroin you are. I don't care if you have a problem with some sort of addiction. When God's supernatural fire hits your life, He can turn that stone life of yours into ashes. And if you are just able to change your ashes for His beauty, then your life will turn from 0 to 100 in peace when it comes to making the right choice here with a simple green piece of paper that you're about to throw in this trash. If you look back, you'll lose a lot. Come on now. Even Disney preaches to you and says, let it go. God came down, he saw it, and he says, man, this place is going to be destroyed. So here's how I close, and I'm closing now. And worship team, I forgot to communicate with you guys. You're not needed for this altar call. It's not that you're not wanted, you're just not needed, okay? Because we're doing something different. The biggest question is this: why would Lot's wife look back? And maybe ask yourself that question. Why are you struggling with writing down that one thing on that green piece of paper, like tithe? Because there's many here that you don't pay your tithe. And you have to understand something, man. This Heart for the House generation cannot carry the load for everybody that ought to be paying their tithe. But this year, my prayer is that in 2020, some of you that are not tithers are going to say, I'm leaving that behind in 2019. I was a non-tither in 2019. But 2020, I'm giving my 10th. That belongs to God. I can't put my church through this. They've been through too much already. Why would she look back? Why would you look back? Why would you not want to participate today at this altar call? Well, I'll tell you why Lot looked back. Is because she was in love with the city lights. And she really didn't want to leave. See, some of you don't want to change. You enjoy the pleasure of sin. And you're absolutely correct, because there is pleasure in it, but it's for a season. See, the Bible says there is pleasure in it. So that's why you can't argue with somebody who is sinning, because there's pleasure in it. We all like pleasure. We love pleasure. But I think that you got to think a lot more fast forward in life. Is that pleasure worth the consequence? Is the 2 glasses of wine worth the eventually DUI? Is the DUI worth eventually the manslaughter? The grieving of another teenager's life, because it all started with, I didn't want to write that down on a green piece of paper and throw it in the trash in my church. You know how many letters I get from prison every week? A lot. A lot. The people that used to be in the chairs that you're at, the people used to be in our home, the people that were serving God. And every letter, and I'll tell you this, and God forbid any of you ever go to jail. But you write me, I promise you this, I write you back. Ask anybody who's been busted, did Pastor Fernie ever write you back? I write everybody back. Not to praise me, but what I do that because I put myself in their shoes. Stacks of letters. And you know what these letters are? Letters of pure regret. That's it. But it wasn't regret then. It was pleasure then. You better get that piece of green paper, throw it in the trash, don't look back, or you'll lose a lot. So I don't know what it is. You're going to fill it in, and we're going to get rid of it. For Lot's wife, she was willing to lose her lot, which equaled a lot. Her desires cost her her life. It's okay to love Lot, but not Lot's things. It's okay to love life, but not things in life. I'm asking you to love God, not what He gives you to get by for life.
Dear past, had to write you this letter. It's been a while since we were together. A lot of things have changed since I got rid of you. I fell in love, met a man named Jesus. He's everything I dreamed, can you believe it? And without Him, I don't know what I would do. But it seems when I'm alone, you're steady trying to call me on the phone, reminding me of things that me and you used to do.
Now what I want you to do is I want you to write on that green piece of paper. Keep it discreet if you need to. Keep that music playing at the same volume. Keep it discreet if you need to. And just write something down, and then in a minute we're all going to stand and we're going to just crumble this piece of paper, and we are going to just throw this in this trash. And so right now I want you just to write down what you're going to get rid of in 2019. Media, lift it up now. Lift it up.
But it seems when I'm alone, you're steady trying to call me on the phone, reminding me of things that me and you used to do. And then you want to change the way I feel. You're telling me the love we had was real, but you was just a liar, and I never want to be with you. So I gotta say goodbye, 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 goodbye. So long, I'm moving on, no, I'm moving on. Goodbye, 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 goodbye. So long, I'm moving on.
I want you to stand to your feet right now, and I just want you to lift up your hands to the Lord. Just lift your hands to the Lord, and I want you to see you leaving 2019 and going into the year 2020. You're going in victorious. You're going in victorious. Now I want you to get that green piece of paper, and then on the count of 3, I want us all to crumble it at the same time. 1, 2, 3. Crumble that thing. We're going to start from here.
Dear past, had to write you this letter.
One row at a time, beginning with Pastor Frank. Come this way and throw this past in the trash. Give us more volume there, media.
I fell in love, met a man named Jesus. He's everything I dream, can you believe it? And without him, I don't know what I would do, But it seems when I'm alone, you're steady trying to call me on the phone, reminding me of things that me and you used to do. And then you want to change the way I feel. You're telling me the love we had was real, but you was just a liar, and I never want to be with you. So I gotta say goodbye, 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 goodbye. So long, I'm moving on, no, I'm moving on. Goodbye, 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 goodbye. So long, I'm moving on.
Here's what we're also going to do. We're going to dismiss this service now. We got some pastors that are just going to come here and they're going to make themselves available if you need special prayer in your life. They're just going to pray for you before you leave. But everybody else, you are dismissed. And I hope to see you at that New Year's Eve party. 2019 is going to be a year of breakthrough. We love you so much, and I'll see you for sure next Sunday. God bless you. If you need prayer, come forward.
Things have changed since I got rid of you. Rid of you. I fell in love, met a man named Jesus. He's everything I dream. Can you believe it? And without him, I don't know what I would do. What I would do. But it seems when I'm alone, you're steady trying to call me on the phone, reminding me of things that me and you used to do. And then you want to change the way I feel. You're telling me the love we had.
We thank you for listening to today's podcast. Now it's your time to add the value of this podcast to your daily life. Once again, thank you for your time in listening to Fernando Franco's podcast today. Please help us spread this message by compelling someone today about this podcast. Thank you, and may God bless you.